Find the gradient of the curve at the point where x is equal to 1. Elijah, how to find the gradient of the curve at the point where x equals to 1? What's the word again? Find the derivative. In other words, differentiate it. Okay? Please know your quotient law. Instead of having to do product law, instead of having to do product and power law, yes. Okay, if you know your quotient law, then it's so much more straightforward. So by quotient law, dy dx is equal to, Elijah, state your quotient law for me. Denominator, don't differentiate. Differentiate your numerator. Differentiate your denominator, what do I get here? Differentiate my numerator, sorry, what do I get here? I get 4, then minus numerator, don't differentiate. Differentiate your denominator, what do I get here? Negative 3 over denominator square. Okay, quotient law, technically speaking, is optional, but all your teachers will ask you to apply it one, because it doesn't make sense that you need to convert this and then go and apply your power law and product law. That is so complicated when you can just directly apply your quotient law. Okay, so simplify your dy dx. Okay, and what will I get over here? So I will get 20 minus 12x minus becomes plus 12x, correct? Over 5 minus 3x whole thing square, which will simplify down to 20. The numerator is just 20. Amazing. Denominator is just 5 minus 3x squared. And then they ask you to find the gradient when x equals to 1. Therefore, dy dx, or gradient at x equals to 1, is equal to 20 over 5 minus 3 times 1 square, which will give me, what's the answer? I lazy to calculate. What's the answer? 5, positive 5. 5 minus 3 is 2, so 20 divided by 4. For 3 marks, that's it. So generous. Explain why the curve has no stationary point. This one a little bit more interesting. How do you explain why the curve has no stationary point? You notice that it's only a 1 mark question, which means that they don't really want you to do any particular calculation. So some of you will go and find what? Actually, no stationary point means what? It does not equal to 0. In other words, how to explain that it has no stationary point, Kaylin? Why? So I'm not inclined to give you the mark if you just tell me the dy dx cannot be equal to 0. So the first thing that I will actually explain here is that, what is your denominator here? Five minus 3x squared, right? So the first thing I will explain is, since 5 minus 3x squared is always more than or equal to 0, correct? Because it's a perfect square, ma. Wait first. It is always more than 0. And then what's the next part? And 5 minus 3x whole thing square cannot be equal to 0. Agree? Why cannot be equal to 0? because it's a denominator. Denominator cannot be equal to 0. dy dx is always greater than 0. Hence, since dy dx not equal to 0 for all values of x, the curve has no stationary point. Surprisingly, Cambridge grammar very bad. No stationary point should be singular, not plural. It could very well be that all they want you to tell me is that dy dx must be greater than 0 lah. But I will write out the complete explanation. Because this is the complete explanation. You have to tell me that your denominator cannot be equal to 0, and therefore it will always be more than 0, and therefore your dy dx will always be more than 0. And the reason why it has no stationary point is dy dx can never be equal to 0. Next, the curve y equals to fx is such that f prime x is equal to 4 over cosine square x, and the curve passes through the point pi over 4, 1. Find an expression for fx. What is f prime x? What is f prime x? What is f prime x? F prime x means your dy dx. So your f prime x is your dy dx. You all don't learn inverse functions, so you won't be confused one. But for those of you who learn functions, which is none of you actually, now that I think about it, not in your syllabus anymore. Last time, students will confuse this with this. The first one is called an inverse function. What's an inverse function? If I have 3x, what's my inverse function? 3x means x times 3, right? So the inverse of x times 3 is something divided by 3. So the inverse function is x over 3. That is called an inverse function. Okay, you all don't learn functions anymore, so you will never be confused. But last time, students would confuse f prime x versus f inverse x. Anyway, y equals to fx such that f prime x is equal. So to find fx, I need to do what to f prime x, Elijah? I need to integrate it. So fx is equal to integrate 4 over cosine square x dx, which is equal to 4 integrate 1 over cosine square x dx, which is equal to integrate this. What do I get, Elijah? Cosine square is equal to, so it's equal to integrate secant square x dx. So don't forget. So when you integrate secant square, you get what? 4 tangent x plus c. Correct? So sometimes students, they give you in cosine square, then suddenly you forget that 1 over cosine square is just secant square. Then I don't know what you want to do about it. Then they will go and apply power rule for me. A very amazing one. Please be very careful. Specific to trigonometric functions, 1 over cosine x is not the same as cosine inverse x. They are not the same thing. you should know that they're not the same thing. So trigonometric functions don't work this way. Okay? What? You should know that they are not the same thing, right? It's complicated. I want to try explaining to you. It's complicated. Just remember that your inverse functions and your 1/, function for trigo is not the same thing, even though for arithmetics it's the same thing. Okay? So you'll get 4 tangent x plus c. Then what's the next part? You need to sub in. You need to sub in what? You sub in the point, which is pi over 4, 1, right? Because this is your fx, right? So you will get 1 equals to 4 tangent pi over 4 plus c. And therefore, c is equal to, what is pi over 4? Pi is 180, right? 180 over 4 is 45 degrees. What is tangent 45 degrees? Huh? Tangent 45 is 1. Right? And therefore, c is just 1 minus 4. Which will give me -3. And therefore, fx is equal to 4 tangent x minus 3. Okay? Again, 3 marks. 3 6 marks here. 7 marks actually.